Right, welcome to this army overview video. It's for the Blood Angels. The list is finally finished. I've just finished painting the last of the units here, and so in this video now I'm going to show you the entire army. 2000 points, new codex, 8th edition, and some slight adjustments as well with some points changes for FAQ. So it's fully up to date here. 2000 points Blood Angels, and in this video we'll go through, I'll build up the whole list. I'll start from building up the detachments and HQs and troops and so on, and get the final list and the points amounts, and then we'll stand back and take a look at the whole of the army as well. So a very tactical video, this one, a lot of philosophy about how I plan to use the different units, and the overall army philosophy we'll cover in this, and this will give you a good idea of some hints and tips and tactics for Blood Angels, and it'll give you an opportunity to see the reasoning behind the units I've taken and the overall battle plan and strategy for the Blood Angels. They have suffered defeats one after another. They have gained victories. It's sort of a half and half sort of mix with them. I'm hoping this list is the strongest of a line of lists that I've done, and so well, we'll just have to see. I'll propose the list here, and then I'm going to put them out to battle and see how well they do. So Blood Angels have been on the channel for a long time. If you go back to some of the earliest battle reports, Blood Angels are there right at the start of the channel here on YouTube. So I've been rooting for them for a long time. They've built up a following over the years, and so it's good to see them being revamped quite early on here compared to other armies that I'm still working on at the moment. So a very visual army. Love the models, especially with the plastic models that Games Workshop have released, and so it's been a joy to put them together. And ready for 8th edition, just been revamping the army, expanding some of the units, rebasing some of the models, and then choosing a handful of new units to add. So some new units being added that you'll see here in this video. So the overall philosophy for this army is nasty firepower covering a heavy assault going in. So some sort of assault based units, some heavy hitting units for close combat, and the idea is to soften up the opponent with some nasty long range firepower and short range as well, and then sort of crippling the opponent's ability to counteract this attack coming in, and then to let loose with some nasty close combat units to get in amongst the opponent's deployment zone and cause trouble. So I don't want them exclusively close combat. I do want this army to feature some heavy firepower, which they certainly have, and then also to have some heavy hitting close combat units as well. One of the downsides of Blood Angels was they are an elite army, and you can go down the route of having a very small elite army. I've tried to counteract that in this list here, to try and expand the army out, try and make it a bigger footprint, but try and retain the elite units and that heavy hitting ability with them in close combat. But you'll see this list gradually build up here as we go along. It'll be a chance to see some of the models as well. If you're looking to get into collecting Blood Angels, then there is a start collecting video, and that introduces you to the whole idea of collecting Blood Angels. Check that one out on the channel. That'll give you sort of an overview, and in that video you'll see a big spectrum of all of the units I've painted up for the Blood Angels. The models that I have here are just specific for this list, but in that start collecting video you'll see a whole load of other models that aren't included, ones that I'm not using as much at the moment. If you like the way the models look, then check out the painting tutorial on the channel here. I'll show you from start to finish how to paint the Blood Angels up. You just follow the steps along and you can achieve the same results. And then for more difficult projects like the vehicles, then there's the in-depth painting tutorial on the Plus channel as well. So I usually write the lists out as I go along and build it up, just the way I've done on this series here. So the structure of the army is a healthy structure, I think. It's pretty good actually, the way it's turned out, with the help of FAQ as well. So I'm just going to start this off here. Blood Angels. It's 8th edition, and we're doing a 2000 points list here. It is battle forged, so I get 3 command points for that. I'm also going to run a Spearhead detachment. That gives you +1 command point. And I'm also running, and this is the addition to this list, this is the change here that I've managed to incorporate into this army, and I've gone for a Battalion as well. And now with FAQ I get 5 command points for that. So we're looking at a 9 command point army. So that is very helpful for a 2000 point army. I have 9 command points available. You'll see I'm also going to talk about stratagems, warlord traits, relics. All going to cover all of that in this video as well. So there's lots of things you can pick up on here, but there's ways of me retaining or gaining some of these command points back as well. So very healthy amount of command points, which is good. Some good Blood Angel stratagems that I plan to use, some key ones, and so that's going to add some nice bit of tactical flexibility. Plenty of re-rolls available as well with that 9 command points, so really happy about that. So we'll start with the battalion detachment. And remember, the philosophy that we're aiming for here is a fire support element to this army, and then an aggressive, heavy-hitting close combat element here. I feel I must include that for Blood Angels. I can't play them like regular Space Marines. I've got to have like an aggressive part to the army. So you'll see that, and then sort of this aggressive firepower to go along with it is the plan. So we'll start with HQs first of all. So I'm going to need 3 of them, 2 for the battalion and 1 for the spearhead as well. So my first is the Sanguinary, it's the warlord. So this is the battalion detachment. It's the Sanguinary for the HQ, and he is 170 points for him. So this is part of the aggressive section of the army here. So I want a warlord that's he's durable enough, nice and aggressive from him. He's brilliant, movement 12, nice and quick. He's got the Descent of Angels, he can deep strike down. He's got 2+ to hit in close combat. He's got 5 wounds, he's got 5 attacks, really good. 2 up save. He's got a 4+ invuln save with his Iron Halo, and then he can charge even if he fell back. So he's great for getting in amongst the opponent and then hopping about and charging different targets. Aura of Fervour, you can add 1 to the attacks characteristic of friendly Blood Angels infantry units within 6, so he's brilliant for enhancing. It's really helpful for an elite army where you don't have that many models. To grant some enhancements to them is really good. So extra attacks here. I'm thinking specifically for Sanguinary Guard. If the Terminators are nearby as well, you can give them extra attacks. That's really good for Aura of Fervour. So he's got Jump Pack Assault, as we said, he can deep strike in. He has the Death Mask, and then his weapon is fantastic. The Encarmine Sword is +2 strength, so he fights at strength 6. He's on AP -4, so he's going to bypass the vast majority of armour, and then D3 damage as well. So even vehicles he can charge into, quite happily take them on as well. He's even done well at picking up wounds against things like Imperial Knights as well in some of the games that have been played. So I think the Sanguinary is useful enough. He really is quite good. Now, so there's red first, remember. So you know, he's fighting at strength 6. He's going to have 5s to win vehicles. Well, with red first, if he charges in, he's going to be on 4s to wound. It's not too bad. If he's on 3s to wound, something becomes 2s to wound. So on the charge, it's well worth taking advantage of that. Sanguinary is pretty powerful. And for 170 points, he's nicely below 200, so he's not a ridiculous amount. I think he's actually pretty reasonable. So happy enough with the Sanguinary as the warlord. So I'm going to mark him here as the warlord. His warlord trait is fixed. It's Aura of Fervour, and it's 6-inch auto pass morale, which is helpful. Say for example, Sanguinary Guard or the Terminators, they've lost 4 of their number, and there's 1 left. Instead of a dangerous morale roll, potentially, if he's nearby within 6, just auto pass. A bit of peace of mind there, having him hanging around the elite units. The last thing you want is elite units you paid points for and then them just melting away because of a bad morale result. So that's okay. I'm pretty happy taking that warlord trait. It's not the strongest, but it may come in helpful. So that's the first HQ, and what I usually do is if I've paid out a lot of points for an HQ, it's just one's quite expensive, I then try and go for cheaper ones, especially for this elite army. Don't want the army having loads of expensive characters and all of a sudden you've used up 1/3 of your points on HQs. So the next 2 are cheap, but for this one I'll put in the, doesn't matter really, I'll put the Chaplain in here. So this is a regular Chaplain, a regular power armor. He's 72 points. 72 points, nice and cheap, and he'll perform an important role in the list. Check out the tactics videos on the channel for each of these units. I really do go into depth in that series that's on the channel here. You can check out that series for the Blood Angels. But for the Chaplain, he's there to grant the rerolls to hit is the main key for him, and specifically to help out one of the assault units. That's the Terminators. He's to hang around with them and to help them with their reroll. So 4s to hit because of the -1 with the hammers, and then re-rolling just makes that unit much more effective. Really does help them out. So that's the Chaplain, and he fulfills the second HQ slot. So now for the Battalion, the issue that I had was trying to find troops. 3 units of troops. If I started going down the route of tactical marines and intercessors, it was starting to make the Blood Angels look like other armies that I have, or too similar to regular Space Marines. The tactical marines do look nice, but I've been trying to find sort of a cheap way in points of fulfilling this Battalion detachment. So the route I've gone down for is Scouts, this is the last units I've finished painting. So Scout squads, yeah. So for Blood Angels, they're working out here. I put them in troops, and again, the configuration I've gone for is the 5-man squads. What I'll do here is just bring in some models. So we have covered Sanguinary. There he is. I mean, what a focal point here for the Blood Angels. He's certainly likes to draw attention to himself. So that's him. That's the HQ, and then the Chaplain. I've rebased him, and again, if you want a closer look at these, check out the tactical videos, or indeed the start collecting video. I do zoom in a lot of the models, and you can take a nice closer look at them. But that's the Chaplain, model I've had for ages. All lead, these ones that I've had in the collection for a long time. But there he is. Really glad to have him in. I think he's a bargain as well for helping those Terminators out. But Scouts, I'll try and make some room here. So Scouts then, I've gone for 3 units of them. So the first unit I've gone for is unit 5, and I've given them the chainsaw for the sergeant, and the pistol, and then bolt pistol and combat knives for the other 4, like so. And this really helps bulk the army out here. So there's a unit just there. And they've all been modelled on the new size bases, the 32mm bases. That's that squad just there. Then I've gone for another supporting squad of just bolters. Even the sergeant's just got a bolter. I've marked him with a combat knife on his back. And then a heavy bolter, 10 points inside the squad just there to lend a bit of long range firepower. And then just the way the points have worked out, another squad, I'll put it here, another squad of 5 with not upgrades, just bolters. I'm not expecting much from these. The reason why I've taken them is to fulfill the Battalion, which they've done, costing not too much in points, about 180 odd points to do that. And there's my 2 HQs, but that's granted me those 5 command points. So tactically, overall, it helps the army out. They used to perform at tactical roles again. They're to form skirmish screens to protect the tanks from units deep striking in and shooting them or trying to charge them, to clear away and mop up hordes coming in as well as best as they can. So I've given them bolters, heavy bolters, a bit of combat ability here, sort of 11 attacks coming from that smaller unit with the combat knives to get the extra attack. So that's their function, and they're not necessarily to expose these to danger. They're more, if there's too much firepower directed towards them, sometimes I'll be hiding them, and just having them there as an area denial, stopping the opponent from deep striking in, is the key. Just to fan out and just to protect my gun line of tanks. Another important role for them, they have the concealed positions special rule. So during deployment, I can deploy them as long as they are 9 inches away from the enemy deployment zone and any enemy models. So got to stay away from the deployment zone, but I can use them tactically to grab, like if it's an objective based game, I can use them to sit on top of objectives. If it's a relic game, I can put them ahead and actually sit them on top of the relic straight away. So tactically, very useful to have these. I know they're going to get shot to bits if I'm not careful. I'm not expecting them to achieve too much, but they're there. Sort of tactical flexibility for sure, and as a screen as well. So they're definitely useful. They're not redundant. I think I'll find them very useful in games. And look at it. Bulks the army out. This is an elite army, and now I've got 3 blocks of infantry. It gives the Blood Angels a bit more of a presence on the battlefield. That was recommendations really coming in on the Plus channel from in the army development video. We've been working on the Blood Angels, and subscribers have been saying try and get a battalion and try and not go too heavy on elites. The army's too small, but instead bulk it out with the scouts. I'm very happy with them, and they're old models, but they do look good. I really do like them. There. So troop sets, scouts. So 1 unit at 55 points. That's with the combat knives. Another unit at 55 points with the bolters, and then another unit coming at 65 points with the heavy bolter, and a bit of firepower available from them. Nice bit of range, and a weapon that can pick off sort of marines here and there, sort of space marine type targets at range, no problem at all. So I've fulfilled the battalion now, and I'm really happy with how it's worked out. So next, I'll cover the elites. So far we've got our troops here for the defensive block, and we've got some HQs that are going to be part of the assault. There's sort of a split there at the moment. So now we're going to take a look at elites. I have 2 elites, and they're going to form the aggressive part of the army for sure. So in the order they are in the book, we'll take them here. It's Sanguinary Guard. I really wanted to try and work these into the final army. In previous lists I had gone for a unit of 8, which was okay. They hit quite hard, but once they've hit, the opponent usually turns on them and destroys them, and a unit of 8 of those was absorbing a lot of points, and it was attracting a lot of firepower, and they're being destroyed. They've got no invuln save at all, and so I was often finding them being ganged up on, and they've been wiped out, and a big chunk of my army missing. So I've shrunk them down again to a unit of 5, and I had to make a bit of room to put the scouts into the army. So still a unit of 5. They work out quite good. I've equipped them all the same. Here, there's the models. They're beautiful models. They are ridiculously taller than the scouts. I've not lined these up before. That's complete and utterly insane. They're meant to be the same size guys. These are just marines here, but in less size armour, so it just shows you the scale difference. Absolutely ridiculous. But anyway, scouts, they must be like teenagers or something, but they're much smaller. So anyway, what 2 of those, and then here, and they've all got swords. I've gone for swords with these, not so keen on the axes. I think the swords are good. So 5 of them armed all the same. The points I've had spare. It's Angelus bolt guns and then the Encarmine swords for them. And if you total that together, it works out 175 points. So it actually keeps them nicely below 200. So if I lose them in a game, it's not such a big deal as it was. You know, before you're adding on another 120 odd points to that, and all of a sudden, you know, 300 point unit, that hurts if that's deleted. But 175 points is not so bad. The value spread between other units. So I rate them. I think they're pretty good. Movement 12. You know, they can descend in and then charge potentially. Stratagem. So I was going to talk about stratagems in this game. A key stratagem, which now I can play quite happily because of the amount of command points I've got, is Descent of Angels. It does cost 2 command points, but use a stratagem before making a charge roll of a Blood Angels jump pack unit from your army that was set up on the battlefield earlier in this turn. So that's the turn when they deep strike in. And I do need to remember now for FAQ, by the way, I've got to hold them off. Turn 1, I can only come in my deployment zone, landing those in. It needs to be turn 2 onwards. They can land anywhere they want, more than 9 inches away, which is fine because they're there to just deep strike in later anyway. So you roll 3d6 for your charge instead of 2d6. That makes it much more reliable because it is key that when they land, I need them to charge. So that's well worth that 2 command points to play that Descent of Angels stratagem for them. So I usually use that when they land in, and they're designed to go after heavy infantry, if not vehicles, to cause trouble for them as well. Because, you know, freeze to hit, strength 4, they've got 2 wounds, nice and durable, because they're 2 up save, 2 wounds is really good. 2 attacks each, leadership 8. And then the sword here, the Encarmine sword, is strength for user strength 5, but it's AP minus 3, so when they do wound, you know, units with armour are going to be in real trouble at that. And then D3, so they really can cause trouble for things with wounds, even vehicles and so on, dreadnoughts and so on. They should be good against that. To help with their strength is the red first. When they charge in, +1 to wound rolls. So if any 5s to wound a vehicle, it becomes 4s, and all of a sudden that really helps them out. So steel can be pretty good against vehicles. I think they'll cause trouble. Now remember, if I link them up with the Sanguinary, all of a sudden their 10 attacks turns into 15 attacks for them if he is nearby. So these two need to be working together. Then you have the rules for that. So that's his rules granted to them, and then in return, because they interact here, heirs of Escalion, you can reroll failed hit rolls to models from this unit if they're within 6 of a friendly Blood Angel's Warlord. So it is important that he is the Warlord, and then that means that they can reroll the hits. So 10 attacks becomes 15, and it's re-rollable because of him. So you can see that combo working out really well. It just really amplifies them, and then with that +1 to wound, and if he makes in for the charge as well, all of a sudden they should cause trouble for a lot of units, no problem at all. So happy enough with the Sanguinary Guard there. The plan is that the heavy firepower deals out some damage. I don't want these charging in into the middle of a whole army because they'll be killed. But the idea is the heavy firepower softens up some targets, and then when the strength of the opponent's died down a little bit, and he's lost some key shooting units and so on, then these come in, and then they can start hacking their way through. Because ideally I want them to be able to take out a few targets, one after the next, jumping around the board. And to do that, they need to survive when they initially land, and then charge on, and so on. So that's the plan with them. They should be pretty impervious to regular, like infantry firepower, like bolters and las guns. But I need to wait until some of the heavy firepower has been dealt with before bringing them in. And then that's another reason for keeping these a smaller unit, because if I have a massive unit I spent loads of points on, I'm holding them off for one turn after the next. I've got a smaller army on the board. That's not such a good idea either. So I think 5's enough. If I link them up nicely, that's still a potent unit and combination going on with them. So that's Sanguinary Guard. The other assault unit, again, one of my all-time favourites, and just find it here. Lots of elites for Blood Angels, so it does fit nicely in with them. It's Terminators, Assault Terminators. So I'll just bring these in, and again, these have been on the channel for a long time, but Assault Terminators here. Thunderhammer and Storm Shields is the combination I've gone for them. It's unit 5, just here. So there they are, just a nice big block here to help fill this army out. So, Terminators. Later on I'll zoom out, and then you'll be able to see the whole army laid out in the order there, and you'll get an idea of the whole thing, how it looks, just as an overview at the end. But again, Terminators, nice durable unit. 2 wounds, 2 up save, a 3+ invuln save with the Storm Shields. I can teleport them in. I'll be transporting these in the Storm Raven gunship, which we'll cover a bit later on. But Teleport Strike is available for them. And yeah, it's Thunderhammers here. ×2 strength. So these will be striking at strength 8. These are the vehicle smashers here, monsters and characters. That's what they're designed to kill. AP -3, and it's a straight 3 damage. It is -1 to hit. This is the issue I had with them. So, including the sergeant, it's 11 attacks. You're getting about 5 hits. Needing 4s to hit with 11 attacks. Getting about 5 or 6 hits, and then maybe a few don't wound. You're ending up the opponent sort of half killing a vehicle, and it wasn't quite good enough. So the fix for that is the combination I've used for a long time. That's putting the Chaplain in with them, so that when they charge in combat, it's 11 attacks needing 4s, but then it's re-roll your misses, re-roll hits, re-roll your misses for those, which really does help out for them. So I think that definitely does help for sure. So you imagine these guys, put them in Storm Raven, they zoom up the board. We'll cover the Storm Raven a bit later. The heavy weapons on there firing away, and then the next turn drop these guys off, and then just let them go on the rampage. That's the shield there. This is a magnetized sergeant, just there. And their aim is to go after key targets, to land them in the heart of the opponent's force, and just to let them tear away. at like main battle tanks and dreadnoughts and super heavies and Wraith Knights, that kind of target, Tyranid monstrous creatures and so on. That's the plan, for them to charge in and deliver literally that hammer blow to some key units the opponent has. And then again, like the Sanguinary Guard, nice bit of durability with these. 2 wounds each, 3 up invuln save, 2 up save. They'll absorb a lot of small arms firepower, no problem at all. And even heavy firepower, they'll be ignoring that with their invuln saves. So nice durable unit, which I think I'll need for them. They need to survive for as long as possible. So Assault Terminators then, with that configuration, Thunderhammer's Storm Shields works out at 235 points. They are expensive enough, but not ridiculous. Reasonable really for, 235 points. That's roughly what they've always been. They're a little bit expensive, more than they used to be, but still pretty good. But one of the old reliable units that I'm hoping will sort of assault and then hang around and contribute throughout the game, even to the very end. And again, a bodyguard for the characters. These guys are bodyguard for the Warlord as well, so sort of that intermingling going on with characters, helping these out and enhancing them. There's further enhancements for these, which I'll cover a bit later with another character that will lead the Spearhead. So that's the Assault Terminators. At this stage I'm going to put the flyer in as well. So it's the Storm Raven Gunship, coming up just here. Storm Raven Gunship. So 2 functions for this. The models here is a bit big for the screen. You'll see it a bit later when we zoom out. Take off the base here. There it is. This thing's a big model. There. And so the configuration I've gone for, the blood rockets here, twin las cannon and twin multi-melter as well. And the way the points have worked out, there'll be an addition to this as well, which is a subscriber suggestion, and then I've been able to fulfill it because of a points reduction. But Storm Raven Gunship, the total points cost for that is 338 points. It is expensive. It is an expensive unit, but it's sort of one of the hinges for this Blood Angels force. So nice bit of heavy firepower. First of all, the rockets are pretty good. Here, let's have a look. Storm Strike missile launcher, heavy one. There's 2 of them, to get 2 shots of these. Range 72, strength 8, -3 and 3 damage. It's nice. The twin las cannon, 2 shots there. Strength 9, -3, d6 damage. And the twin multi-melter, which can be really nasty. Heavy 2, strength 8, -4, d6 damage if it's within half range, which is 12. It's 2d6, discarding the lowest. And so it's a nice bit of reliable bit of damage there. So the firepower on this thing, if it rolls well, is enough to kill a main battle tank in 1 round of firepower. No problem at all, and that is helpful. We want to be able to neutralise key targets with nasty sort of anti-vehicle firepower. So that's one of its functions, and the other one is transportation. So the idea is that it's able to get across the table and safely transport the unit inside, and the units will be the Terminators. We've got 12 slots to use up. Each Terminator uses up 2, so that's 10 for those guys. And then the Chaplain can join them as well, that's 11. And then also the other HQ, which I'll cover a bit later, that's the Sanguinary Priest, joins them as well. You'll see why a bit later on, but that fills out all 12 slots of the transport capacity of that thing. There is space there for a Dreadnought. May experiment in the future perhaps and put a Dreadnought on there. The danger though is to load it up too heavily, and then it gets targeted and all of your assault is all of a sudden stranded because the flyer's been shot down. So I'm quite happy with just transporting those Terminators, and then the firepower available from that as well. It's 338. I'm actually going to add 20 points because I had 20 points spare at the end. So 358 points, and that's the 2 Hurricane Bolters, which I need to model those onto the kit just there. But Hurricane Bolters, rapid fire 6, range 24. It says 2 of them, so that's 12 shots, and at close range 12, it's 24 shots. So it's a lot of shots, and that'll definitely help this army out. Trying to clear away hordes. If I come up against hordes, yeah, 24 shots at close range is going to be a very welcome addition to the army. If this thing's flying over the opponent's force and getting close by, then I should find myself in range 12 quite a lot of the time. So happy with that. I'm happy to include that in. but it is expensive, 358 points for that unit. So I've got to be careful with it. Just be wise, hold it back, keep it out of range, zoom it in, and try and keep it alive for as long as possible. So that's the Storm Raven gunship, and that ends that battalion detachment. So then I've got this Spearhead, which for that, to fulfill, I need 1 HQ at least, and then 3 heavy supports. And so I've been able to fulfill, I've actually got 4 heavy supports to show you here. So the next bit is my long range firepower. And firepower is going to, well, it's some long range firepower and other sort of anti-horde, anti-infantry firepower as well, is what I've gone for. So I'm going to go show you the Predator first of all. So regular Predator, it's Predator Annihilator. It started off at 100 points, it's been a 10-point reduction, so it starts at 90. The combination that I go for, I'll just move this flyer out of the way. The combination I go for is the Annihilator combination just here. That's the original model, and then recently I've painted up a second one of those. So 2 Predator Annihilators. So twin las cannon on top, sponsor las cannons as well, and I haven't modelled it onto the older model here, but I'm also taking the Stormbolter upgrade and also the Hunter Killer option as well. The model looks fantastic when you add these things on, but there's a Hunter Killer just to add a bit more firepower as well. So I've paid the points for those upgrades on this as well. I haven't marked them yet on the model, but that's them too. So I'm going to put those in. And these Blood Angels vehicles really help bulk this army out, just there. So they'll be working with the scouts. Scouts screening and protecting them. I'm not worried about the firepower coming from these. Their job is to make sure that firepower can fire for as many turns as possible. So Predator Annihilator, it works out at 200 points exactly, including the FAQ 10-point deduction. It's 200 points, and then there's another one at 200 points as well. So there's 8 las cannon shots there. Yeah, that's going to cause trouble if those. As each turn goes by, that you're going to start picking on targets, causing trouble for monsters and vehicles and so on. No problem at all. The Hunter Killer is there to add a bit more kick as well, so it's another D6 damage shot potentially can come from each of those tanks, and a little bit of anti-hordes as well with the Stormbolters, just can fire at hordes if they get too close. So that's the idea of those. Nice long range on these, so I can fire them at 48 inches. I can hold nicely back with these. The idea is for them to find a nice firing position and to try and remain stationary if they can, and then set up perhaps behind cover and so on, and then just to lay down long range firepower for the whole of the game, and later on they can move on to objectives and so on. But it's just to try and clear a bit of a path for the assault units. If they land when the opponent's at full strength, they're in trouble. But if I can soften up what the opponent has significantly, then I'll make their job a lot easier. So this double combination, this working together sort of strategy going on with the Blood Angels. So I've got a big question for you here as well. I thought the question was resolved. There's been a lot of debate about this. It's something for you to talk about in the comment section. I'd love to get it resolved. But the next heavy support, you probably know what I'm going to be talking about a bit later. But anyway, Bow Predator is next. Always wanted to have one of these in the army, just because it's like a unique configuration for the Blood Angels. So here's one, like so, and then there is a second one here painted up as well. So 2 Bow Predators. Now look at this army, starting to see the presence of the tanks. It's bulking out. It's looking pretty good. So these are like mobile pillbox like an old bunker with machine guns in it. This is what this thing's like. You can just drive around, park somewhere, and then just fire at stuff. And then 2 of them working. I love to have them working in tandem, ganging up, and it just sort of fits the fluff. I was reading about the fluff. Blood Angels, Predators sort of hunt in packs, and so that's the idea of these pairs working together. You know, if there's a specific infantry unit, both of these can just fire everything at it and just sweep it away. Yeah, I'm liking the idea of that. So Bow Predator works out 172 points each. So that's times 2. So that 172 points. That's the Battle Predator with the twin assault cannon. Nice lot of shots from that. Also includes 2 sponsons of heavy bolters. Again, a hunter killer missile to lend to my fire support for long range anti-tank, and then a storm bolter on top as well, added in. Just all these little things all total up together. And again, same configuration on their hunter killers on this turret also. So very happy with how those Battle Predators have turned out. And if you like the way these vehicles look, as I said earlier, the full painting tutorial, I think it's this one here, I'll show you how to paint on the Plus channel from start to finish, all the details, cover things like all the markings, how to do transfers, battle damage, the mud flicks and so on, how to get that red nice and smooth, a lot of people asking about that, the gems here, the vision slits, the chipping effects, all of that's covered in that tutorial. I'll just move him just over to there, and then him over to there as well. So that's 3 heavies minimum, that's 4. And then what I need next is, I should have put it up here as the HQ, and that's the Sanguinary Priest, and he comes in at 69 points for him, and he is just here. Beautiful model. I really wanted to include him in the army. So he performs an important function, and it has proved useful in games for sure. It's definitely helped out. There's a cheaper option, the Sanguinary Novitiate, but I needed him as an HQ, so I had to go for the Sanguinary Priest, which is just here. The 69 points, there's no other upgrades to add on, it's just the flat cost of him. He's 4 wounds, he's not too bad, he hits on 2+ in close combat, he's got 3 attacks, he's okay, you can throw a grenade or fire a pistol, but that's about it for him. The main reason why I'm taking him, the Blood Chalice is quite helpful, +1 strength to Blood Angels, Infantry and Biker units within 6 inches of the Sanguinary Priest. That's okay, it doesn't come in handy too often, but it's there if I need it. It means that the Terminators fighting at a higher strength. But the main reason I take him is the Narfacium. At the end of your movement phase, the Sanguinary Priest can attempt to heal or revive a single model. Select a Blood Angels, Infantry or Biker unit within 3 inches. So I need to manoeuvre him into position, or the model comes to him within 3 inches, and then I can restore D3 lost wounds. Or, if there's no one to heal within that range, on a 4+, I can restore a slain model as well. Now that's really helpful for super elite models like Terminators. Imagine being able to restore a couple of these during a game to a unit. Pretty cool. Or to restore a Sanguinary Guardsman, you know, like 40 points each, 50 points each. That's pretty helpful, especially for elite models. And then also, I've also found very helpful, and that's restoring wounds on wounded characters. A couple of times the Sanguinor has been gravely wounded, and so what I've done is I've been patient. I've jumped him back to the Priest, I've healed him up, and then jumped him back out into combat and to chase units down. And so that has proved helpful enough. He's a cheap HQ so I can fulfill this Spearhead, and then also he performs a function of just adding a bit of durability to the units that he's going to hang around with. So I just like the look of him, he's cool. It's another model that can throw a crack grenade, and he can help out, granting some strength and the ability to restore wounds and even resurrect slain models. So if you add all that together, it comes to 1,998 points, so nicely under the 2,000, and I've got 9 command points there. There's a couple other things to cover. One point of controversy, and then there's the Relic. So I get access to 1 Relic for free, which is that's all I'm planning to take. So we'll just cover that now. So it's the Veritas Vitae, and I'm actually going to give it to the Sanguinary Priest, because he's quite likely to stay alive. So I can give it to him, or I can give it to the Chaplain. It's no problem, but I usually give it to the Sanguinary Priest. If your army is battle forged and the bearer is on the battlefield, roll a d6 each time you see it. You use a stratagem. On a 5+, you gain a command point. So if you use a stratagem during the game, 5+, get a command point back. It just means that happens a few times during the game, and so it's quite useful for taking that. So that's Veritas Vitae. just there. So that's the Relic. Warlord trait's been covered as well. There's no subdivisions here in the Blood Angels, so it's just straight Blood Angels here. Getting that red first ability, which is really good, that +1 damage, or +1 on the roll when the wounds come up as well. So, stratagems, I'd say they're amazing for the Blood Angels. There's a couple that I think are quite helpful. Because I've got a good number of command points now, I'll be able to use them. Elusive pattern engines is quite helpful for a Blood Angels vehicle. Increase its move characteristic by 6, or D6 plus 6 if it's a bow predator until the end of the phase. That's really helpful. And if I need to be somewhere with one of these vehicles, then I can use that. So pretty happy with that. Yeah, Wings of Fire. Yeah, this is the one I wanted to use there. Wings of Fire, may well find this one useful. Use this stratagem in your movement phase before moving a Blood Angels jump pack unit. So let's say these guys have landed, they've been in combat, and now it's a fresh turn, and they're at this point on the battlefield. Remove the unit from the battlefield and set it up at the end of the phase. Anywhere on the battlefield that's more than 9 inches away from enemy models. So I can just pick them up and relocate and put them down. I mean, tactically that's fantastic. So that's really good. Another good one is Hellfire Shells for the Scouts. Blood Angels infantry model from your army with a heavy bolter, which I have one of them. You can only make a single hit roll, but if it hits, it's D3 mortal wounds. It's pretty good. It's really good. You know, fight a Wraith Knight or something, you can dish out a few wounds on that. Descent of Angels we've already talked about. Red Rampage is pretty good. Blood Angels character, extra D3 attacks. That one's well worth remembering. It really is. I mean, Sanguinary, that could really help him out as well. Then you've got Only in Death to Duty End is helpful. Vengeance for Sanguinius isn't too bad as well, but that's for Black Legion, so no. But the point of contention is kill shot. So I'm going to discuss it here, but see what you think. So the issue's over the wording here, because what I want to know is, can I use it with bow predators? Some of you are going to say yes, some of you are going to say no. I'm cool either way. I hope I can, but I want to get it right. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase if a predator, and it's all just normal case here, it's not in bold, if a predator from your army is within 6 inches of 2 other friendly Blood Angels predators. If you do so, you can add 1 to the wound rolls and damage for all the predators' attacks that target monsters or vehicles this phase. I've got a feeling I don't get it, but I wonder if anyone knows the official, if there has been an official response on this one. I've got a feeling I don't, because it's a bow predator, it's not a predator. But then the reaction to that is, see, it says predator here, and then down in keywords it's vehicle predator, and if I then go to here it's bow predator, but down here in keywords it has vehicle predator bow predator. So, I'm not sure on that one. So leave that in the comment section, see what you think. If you officially know what the answer is, then by all means leave that in the comment section. May just have to make a house rule sort of decision on it, but we'll see. Because that kill shot is really good. It can amplify the damage coming through by a fair bit and increase the wounds and the chance to wound and so on. So very, very helpful. But anyway, that's the list then. So you can see I've gone for that. Some tactical decisions being made by getting that battalion, which has really helped the army out. And then I've got this heavy firepower base for the army in the form of the Predators, different types, Storm Raven as well. And then also this assault block here. They are elite, and so they're vulnerable to being shot down. So the idea is that the heavy firepower does the work, softens the opponent up, and then they're not able to withstand attacks coming in from Sanguinary Guard and the Terminators as well. And they're durable. I want them to survive and charge in, destroy something, charge in, and then just sort of wreak havoc amongst the opponent's battle line. That's the plan with those. And I'm optimistic enough. I think this is the strongest list I've had for the Blood Angels in 8th edition so far. It's the bigger list as well, thanks to the inclusion of the cheap Scouts units being added in as well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to zoom out, move this out of the way. I'm going to zoom out here and set the army up so you get a nice view of it, how it looks on the battlefield. Right, so there it is. That's the new list then for the Blood Angels. So the vehicles help to bulk the army out. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. The big Storm Raven on the board as well. And then the addition of the Scouts now helps to fill this army out nicely. There is a lot of anti-infantry firepower here. You've got the Scouts now, the double barrel Predator, and then also the Hurricane Vultures as well, and the Storm Raven Gunship. So it's a smaller army, but there's a lot of firepower contained within these tanks here. And then anti-tank, I've got 8 las cannon shots here, 9, 10 from the Storm Raven. So 10 las cannon shots is pretty good. Double multi-melter, rockets on here, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 hunter killers available as well. Remembering also the Storm Bolters is here as well, all totaling together to provide a bit of anti-hordes ability for these. And then the close combat punch then with the Assault Terminators and also the Sanguinary Guard, and then supported by some characters granting some nice bonuses here. Extra attacks, reroll hits here, reroll hits for him granted to them, and then the Sanguinary Priest can resurrect and heal models, and especially helping out characters as well, restoring lost wounds to them. And then the Scouts there, grabbing objectives, scouting ahead, and then providing a screen to try and protect my line of tanks, keeping assaulting units and deep striking units away from them as far as possible. So everything's supporting everything else. It's all sort of looking after each other, and I think I need to do that for this elite army. It's quite small, small-ish. It's not too. It's bigger than it was. And the idea is that they can help each other out, and amplify each other, and try and then achieve victory through working together. It needs to be teamwork here for this strategy to work. So it is a challenge to the Blood Angels. They are a challenging army. They've struggled along. Often it's been the complaint of Blood Angels players that their codexes always haven't been too strong. Often points costs have been quite high as well, and so it's been a struggle to match other armies out there with Blood Angels. But now we'll see this list. It's going to be a real experiment for them to see how well they do. So the plan then is to play some games with these. I'm going to do battle reports for both of the channels. So the regular channel here, keep a lookout for Blood Angels battle reports, and then exclusive Blood Angels battle reports with this new list on the Plus channel as well. So you can check that out over on the Plus channel. The link will be in the description below. And then paint tutorials are already available for all of these. Regular paint tutorial on the channel here, in-depth painting tutorial on the Plus channel, and then the tactics videos up and running on the channel here for the Blood Angels also. So I've really focused in on these. I've tried to drive ahead and get this army finished, and here it is. This is the final list. So by all means, the comment section below, leave your own comments and feedback, your own opinion as to how well you think this list will do. Make your predictions, suggestions, units you change and drop out, and maybe if you are facing this army with your list that you have, whatever faction it may be, how well do you think you perform against them if you found yourself lined up in battle against this Blood Angels force. But that's the army. Keep a lookout for them on both of the channels, and keep a lookout for more armies being revamped and future overview videos of those coming out in the future as well. But there it is. Blood Angels are here, 2000 points, 8th edition, new codex. Keep a lookout for them in future games. Thanks for watching, and tune in next time.